The SOS from the stars. The cold silence of space was broken by a signal, a faint, desperate cry for help. On Earth, the message was intercepted by a deep space monitoring station. Scientists worked tirelessly to decode it, their faces growing pale as the meaning became clear. "Help us, or we perish forever." The message came from a distant star system, light years away from Earth. It wasn't just a plea, it was a warning. Whoever had sent it was facing extinction. Humanity had faced its share of struggles, but this was different. This was a call from beyond the stars, a call they couldn't ignore. Earth's leaders quickly assembled a team for the mission. They didn't choose ordinary soldiers or diplomats. This mission called for something more, something extraordinary. The team would consist of Earth's deadliest fighters, elite warriors trained to handle the impossible. These were people who had survived the harshest wars, outsmarted the most dangerous enemies, and endured battles that would break lesser beings. They were the best humanity had to offer. The team was led by Commander Kane, a seasoned fighter known for his sharp mind and unshakable determination. His crew included Mira, a stealth expert who could disappear into the shadows; Dex, a heavy weapons specialist with unmatched firepower; and Dr. Ilara, a scientist skilled in alien technologies. Together, they prepared for a mission that would take them further than any human had ever gone. As the crew boarded their ship, the Resolute, a sense of tension filled the air. The journey would take weeks, and the outcome was uncertain. What kind of enemy could push an entire civilization to the brink of extinction? Were the humans walking into a battle they couldn't win? These questions hung heavy in their minds, but no one dared voice them. The journey through space was quiet but eerie. They passed through fields of drifting asteroids and the remains of shattered ships. The further they traveled, the more signs of destruction they found. It was clear that whatever had attacked the alien civilization had left a trail of devastation in its wake. Finally, the team arrived at the coordinates from the distress signal. What they saw made their hearts sink. The alien planet was barely recognizable. Its surface was scarred with craters, and thick black smoke rose into the atmosphere. Cities were reduced to rubble, and there was no sign of life, only silence. "Are we too late?" Mira whispered, breaking the tense silence on the ship. Kane's eyes narrowed. No, the signal came from somewhere down there. Someone still alive. The Resolute descended cautiously, scanning for any signs of survivors. They landed in what appeared to be an abandoned city, its towering structures crumbling like ancient ruins. The air was heavy with ash, and the faint hum of energy crackled in the distance. As the team stepped out, weapons ready, they felt a strange presence. It wasn't long before they saw them. Aliens, thin and frail, with large glowing eyes that shimmered with fear. They emerged slowly from the shadows, their movements hesitant. These weren't warriors or soldiers. They were civilians, refugees fleeing from an unstoppable enemy. One of the aliens, taller than the rest, stepped forward. It wore a tattered robe and leaned on a makeshift staff. "You came," it said in broken English, its voice trembling. "You heard our call." Kane nodded. "We're here to help. Tell us who did this to you." The alien's eyes filled with tears. "The Devourers," it whispered. "They destroy everything. They take, consume, and leave nothing behind. We have no hope." The words hit hard. The Devourers sounded like a nightmare come to life. Kane exchanged a glance with his team. If these aliens were right, this enemy wasn't just a threat to one planet. It could be a threat to the entire galaxy. Before they could ask more, the ground trembled. A low rumble echoed through the air, growing louder with each passing second. The aliens panicked, scattering in all directions. Kane turned to his team. "We need to move. Now." The team followed the alien leader into a nearby underground shelter. As they descended, they saw more of the refugees, thousands of them, huddled together in fear. Their eyes widened at the sight of the humans, a glimmer of hope breaking through their despair. Once inside, The alien leader introduced itself. "I am Kiral," it said. "We are the last of our kind. If you have come to fight, know this. The Devourers learn quickly. They adapt. They cannot be stopped." Kiral's words hung in the air like a warning. The team realized the gravity of their mission. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a battle against a seemingly unstoppable force. But Kane's voice cut through the tension. "We've faced impossible odds before," he said. "We'll find a way. Humanity doesn't back down." Before Kiral could respond, the rumbling grew louder. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the walls shook violently. The team knew what this meant. The Devourers were here. "Everyone, get ready," Kane shouted. "This fight isn't over." The alien struggle. The underground shelter was dark and cold, lit only by the faint glow of energy panels scattered along the walls. The air was filled with tension, the kind that made even seasoned warriors like Kane feel uneasy. The humans stood in the center of a room packed with alien refugees, thin, pale beings with hollow eyes that carried the weight of endless suffering. Kiral, the alien leader, spoke in a hushed but urgent tone. "We have fought them for decades. We built walls, weapons, and fleets, but the Devourers destroyed them all. They learn, adapt, and overwhelm." Kane frowned, trying to grasp the scale of what they were up against. What exactly are the Devourers? Machines? Aliens? Something else? Kiral paused, its gaze lowering. "They are neither alive nor dead. Machines, yes, but driven by something more, a singular purpose, to consume everything and grow stronger. We call them the Devourers because they leave nothing but silence." Before anyone could respond, Mira stepped forward, her voice sharp. "If you fought them for decades, you must have something. Some knowledge we can use. A weakness." Kiral's glowing eyes dimmed. "We have tried everything. They adapt too quickly. When one strategy works, it only works once. We are a peaceful people, not warriors like you. Our only strength was our knowledge, and even that has failed us." The room fell silent as the refugees murmured among themselves. Dr. Ilara, the team's scientist, broke the silence. "Show us what you've tried. We need to understand them if we're going to help." Reluctantly, Kiral led the humans deeper into the underground complex. They passed through long tunnels lined with makeshift barricades, hastily constructed defenses that seemed woefully inadequate. Finally, they arrived in a large chamber filled with holographic displays and alien artifacts. It was a war room, but one that reeked of desperation. Kiral activated one of the displays. A hologram appeared, showing the Devourers in action. Swarms of sleek, metallic drones tore through cities, their movements precise and relentless. Massive AI-controlled warships hovered in the skies, raining destruction on anything that moved. The aliens' defenses were obliterated in seconds, leaving nothing but ruins. "They are connected," Kiral explained. "A hive mind. When one unit learns, they all learn. Destroy one, and it only strengthens the rest." Kane's jaw tightened. "And you've never found where this hive mind operates from?" Kiral hesitated. "We believe it is controlled by a central core, but its location is unknown. Every attempt to find it has ended in failure." Mira crossed her arms. "Convenient." "Enough," Kane said, his tone firm. "We're not here to point fingers. We're here to fight." Before they could discuss further, a sudden tremor shook the chamber. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling as the refugees screamed in panic. Kiral's face twisted with fear. "They found us." Kane turned to his team. "Mira, scout the perimeter. Dex, lock down the entrance. Ilara, help Kiral evacuate these people." "What about you?" Mira asked. "I'm going to see how bad it is," Kane said, gripping his weapon. "Move." As the team sprang into action, Kane rushed back toward the surface. He could hear the faint hum of machinery growing louder, a sound that sent chills down his spine. Emerging from the shelter's entrance, he saw them, the Devourers. The machines moved like a wave, a seamless tide of destruction. Hundreds of spider-like drones scuttled over the ruins, their metallic bodies reflecting the dim light. Above them, sleek, hovering crafts scanned the area, their sensors glowing in eerie red. Kane activated his comms. "Mira, report." "I'm in position," Mira replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They're swarming the northern sector. We've got about 5 minutes before they breach." 5 minutes is enough," Kane said. "Dex, are the traps ready?" Dex's voice crackled through the comms. "Locked and loaded. Let's give these tin cans a warm welcome." Inside the shelter, Mira had set up motion-triggered explosives along the tunnels. As the first wave of drones entered, the traps detonated in a fiery explosion, reducing the machines to scrap. But for every drone destroyed, more followed, adapting to avoid the traps. "These things don't stop," Dex muttered as he fired his heavy weapon into the swarm. The drones shifted, their movements becoming more unpredictable with every shot. Meanwhile, Dr. Ilara worked frantically with Kiral to lead the refugees to safety. "We need to get them out of here," she yelled over the comms. Kiral nodded, its trembling hands guiding the terrified aliens toward hidden escape routes. "Your bravery gives them hope," it said, its voice filled with gratitude. "They have not seen anyone fight like this before." Ilara managed a small smile. "Let's hope it's enough." Back at the surface, Kane and Mira fought side by side, their weapons cutting through the advancing drones. But the swarm seemed endless. Just when it looked like they would be overwhelmed, a loud explosion shook the ground. "That wasn't us," Kane said, his eyes narrowing. From the smoke, a group of alien warriors emerged. They were young and clearly inexperienced, but they carried weapons, primitive by human standards, but wielded with determination. Kiral's voice came through the comms. "Some of our people have chosen to fight. They believe in you." Kane couldn't help but grin. "Good. Let's show them how it's done." The humans and aliens fought together, pushing back the swarm. The battle wasn't a victory, but it was a start, a small glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. As the dust settled, Kane turned to Kiral. "We'll need more than bravery to win this war. Show us everything you know about the Devourers. If there's a way to stop them, we'll find it." Kiral's eyes gleamed with renewed hope. "You are not like us. You fight differently. Perhaps that is what we need." First blood. The underground shelter felt heavier after the battle. Refugees huddled together, their eyes wide with lingering fear. Kane stood at the center of the war room, staring at the holographic display of the Devourer swarm. It was clear this fight was just beginning. "They'll adapt to the traps we used," Kane said, his voice steady but grim. "Next time, they won't fall for the same tricks." Kiral nodded slowly. "You are correct. That is why we always lose. Their adaptability is unstoppable." Mira leaned against a wall, cleaning her blade. "Nothing's unstoppable. You just have to hit it hard enough in the right place." Ilara spoke up, her fingers flying across a portable terminal. "We need intel." "Kiral, you mentioned that the Devourers are controlled by a central AI core. Do you have any data on their network or communication patterns?" Kiral hesitated. "We tried to study them. We found patterns, but they always changed before we could use them." "Then let's get ahead of the change," Ilara said, determination burning in her eyes. "Give me everything you've got. If they have a weakness, I'll find it." Before Kiral could respond, an urgent alarm blared through the shelter. The lights flickered, and the refugees began to panic. Dex's voice came through the comms. "Kane, we've got movement topside. A lot of it." Kane grabbed his weapon, his team immediately snapping into action. "How many?" "All of them," Dex replied grimly. "They're swarming the whole area." The team rushed to the surface, finding a scene that made even seasoned warriors like Kane hesitate. The horizon was dark, filled with thousands of drones moving like a living tide. Above them, massive devourer warships hovered, their sleek forms glowing with an ominous red light. "They're not here to scout," Mira said, her voice low. "This is a full assault." Kane nodded. "Then we make them regret it. Dex, set up the heavy guns. Mira, pick your targets. Ilara, stay close to Kiral and keep those refugees moving." "And you?" Mira asked. "I'm buying us time," Kane said, his tone leaving no room for argument. The first clash. The devourers hit like a storm. Drones poured through the ruins, their metallic limbs clicking and whirring as they adapted to every new obstacle. Kane stood at the front line, his rifle barking with precision as he picked off the leading machines. Behind him, Dex's heavy cannon roared, cutting through the swarm in devastating bursts. Mira moved like a ghost, her blade flashing as she dismantled drones with surgical precision. She darted through the chaos, her movements so fluid that even the adaptive machines struggled to track her. The refugees, inspired by the humans' bravery, began to fight back. Using makeshift weapons and old plasma rifles, they took positions alongside their newfound allies. Though they lacked the humans' skill, their courage was unmistakable. A deadly revelation. Amid the battle, Ilara and Kiral worked furiously in a makeshift command post. Ilara analyzed the devourers' movements, her mind racing. "Something's wrong," she muttered. "They're not fighting like before. It's almost deliberate." Kiral looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Ilara's fingers paused on the terminal. "They're not adapting as quickly as usual. It's like they're testing us, probing for something." Before Kiral could respond, the answer became horrifyingly clear. One of the warships above unleashed a massive beam of energy, not at the humans, but at the ruins themselves. The ground shook violently as the structure of the underground shelter began to collapse. "They're not here for us," Ilara said, her face pale. "They're here to destroy everything. They're cutting off any chance of resistance. Sacrifice and strategy." Kane heard the explosion and turned to see the shelter crumbling. "Ilara, report." "They're collapsing the ruins," Ilara said, her voice urgent. "We need to evacuate now, or everyone down here dies." Kane's mind raced. They couldn't hold the line much longer. And now their only sanctuary was being destroyed. He activated his comms. "Mira, cover the refugees. Dex, pull back and lay down suppressive fire. We're getting everyone out." As the team regrouped, the refugees began to flee toward a nearby canyon. Kane and his team fought a desperate rearguard action, holding off the relentless swarm long enough for the aliens to escape. The devourers pressed harder, their numbers overwhelming. Realizing the situation was dire, Dex made a decision. "Kane," he said, his voice steady, "I've got a plan to slow them down." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Dex, don't do anything stupid." Dex grinned. "You know me, boss. I specialize in stupid." Before anyone could stop him, Dex grabbed a satchel of explosives and ran toward the advancing swarm. He set the charges on a crumbling tower, using it to block the main path. "You better not waste this, Kane," he said over the comms. The explosives detonated, the tower collapsing in a massive cloud of dust and debris. The swarm was halted, temporarily, but Dex was gone. The fight isn't over. The humans and aliens regrouped in the canyon, the refugees exhausted but alive. Kane stood at the edge of the group, his face grim. Dex's sacrifice had bought them time, but it wasn't enough. The devourers would be back, and now they were out of safe places to hide. Kiral approached him, its voice trembling. "You have done more for us in one day than we could have done in decades, but I fear it will not be enough." Kane turned to the alien leader, his eyes hard. "Then we'll make it enough. These people deserve to survive, and I don't care how many machines we have to destroy to make that happen." Ilara stepped forward, holding up her terminal. "I think I found something." Before the shelter collapsed, I intercepted a signal. It's not much, but it could lead us to the Devorer's central core. Kane nodded. Then we move now. If we can hit them where it hurts, we've got a chance. The hidden weakness. The canyon's jagged walls towered over the humans and their alien allies as they trekked deeper into the wilderness. Each step felt heavier, weighed down by the loss of decks and the knowledge that their enemy would soon regroup. The sound of faint energy hums in the distance served as a chilling reminder that the Devorers were never far behind. Commander Kane walked at the front of the group, scanning the horizon for threats. Beside him, Kirill limped slightly, the toll of constant retreat evident in its frail movements. The refugees followed in silence, their eyes darting nervously at every sound. Even Mira, usually calm and sharp-tongued, remained quiet, her blade clutched tightly. "What did you find, Ilara?" Kane finally asked, breaking the uneasy silence. Ilara glanced at her portable terminal, still processing the fragmented data she had pulled from the Devorer's transmissions. "It's incomplete," she admitted. "But there's something, a pattern buried in their network. It's faint, but it doesn't change like the rest of their hive mind." Kirill's glowing eyes flickered with a mix of fear and hope. "What does that mean?" "It means we might have found something constant," Ilara replied. "If it's not adapting, it could be tied to their central AI core. But without more data, I can't say for sure." Kane nodded. "Then we get more data. Kirill, you mentioned something about ancient technology your people once used. Could it help us?" The alien hesitated, its expression troubled. "There is something. Before the Devorers came, we built massive observatories to study the stars. One of them is nearby, buried in the mountains. It may still hold records of our early encounters with the Devorers." "That's our next target," Kane said firmly. "Mira, scout ahead. Ilara, keep working on that signal. We're not stopping until we know how to bring these things down." The observatory. The journey to the observatory was grueling. The path wound through steep cliffs and narrow trails, each step a gamble as loose rocks tumbled beneath their feet. The air grew colder, and the distant hum of Devorer activity kept everyone on edge. After hours of climbing, they finally reached the site. The observatory was a massive, dome-like structure half buried in the mountain. Its once smooth walls were cracked and overgrown with alien vegetation, but its size was imposing. "This place looks ancient," Mira said, inspecting the exterior. "Are you sure it still works?" Kirill's voice was solemn. "It must. It is all we have left." Inside, the observatory was a mix of eerie silence and dormant machinery. Massive data cores lined the walls, their surfaces covered in dust. Ilara wasted no time, moving to one of the consoles and plugging in her terminal. "These systems are surprisingly intact," she said, her fingers flying over the controls. "If I can access their archives, I might be able to find out where the Devorer's core is." As Ilara worked, the rest of the team secured the perimeter. Kane noticed something unsettling. Scorch marks on the walls, signs of an old battle. "Kirill," he called, gesturing to the marks. "What happened here?" The alien's gaze lowered. "The Devorers found this place years ago. We fought to protect it, but we failed." Before Kane could press further, Ilara's voice rang out. "I got something." The team gathered around her as a holographic display flickered to life. It showed a map of the planet, overlaid with energy signatures. One point glowed brighter than the rest, a concentrated nexus of activity far below the surface. "This must be it," Ilara said, excitement tinged with concern. "The central AI core. It's buried deep underground, surrounded by layers of defenses." Mira raised an eyebrow. "So we know where it is. How do we get to it?" "That's the hard part," Ilara admitted. "The energy readings suggest it's protected by a massive electromagnetic shield. We'd need to disable it first." "Disable it how?" Kane asked. Kirill stepped forward, its voice trembling. "There is one way. The shield's power source is ancient, technology from our ancestors, hidden in a nearby ruined site, but it is heavily guarded. The spy among them. As the team began planning their next move, Kane noticed one of the refugees lingering near the edge of the group, avoiding eye contact. His instincts flared. Something felt off. He approached quietly, his voice low but firm. "Who are you?" The alien flinched, its hands shaking. I am no one. Just afraid." Kane narrowed his eyes. Afraid or hiding something. Before the alien could respond, Mira's blade was at its neck, her movements swift. "Talk," she demanded. Now, under the pressure, the alien broke. "I had no choice," it cried. "The Devourers, they made me. If I didn't, they would have taken my family." Kirill stepped back, horrified. "You betrayed us." The spy's voice cracked. "I didn't want to. But they know you're here. They're coming." As if on cue, the ground trembled. Outside, the faint hum of Devourer activity grew into a deafening roar. Mira cursed under her breath. "They're already here." Kane grabbed his weapon, his voice sharp. "We don't have time to argue. Mira, secure the spy. Ilara, download everything you can. We're moving out." Escape and a hard decision. The team fought their way out of the observatory, the Devourers swarming in waves. Kane and Mira held the line, their weapons tearing through drones as Ilara and Kirill led the refugees toward safety. As they reached the edge of the cliffs, Kane turned back, his face grim. The observatory's data cores were still intact, but leaving them behind meant the Devourers could learn everything the team had discovered. "Ilara," Kane called. "Can you rig the observatory to blow?" She hesitated. "I can, but it'll take time." "Then we hold the line," Kane said. "Mira, with me." The battle was brutal, the Devourers adapting to every tactic the humans used. Just as the team was about to be overwhelmed, Ilara's voice came through the comms. "It's done. Let's go." The team retreated, the observatory erupting in a massive explosion behind them. The shockwave sent debris flying, cutting off the swarm, temporarily, a faint glimmer of hope. As they regrouped in a nearby cave, Kane looked at Ilara. "Did we get enough?" Ilara nodded, though her face was pale. "We've got the location of the shield generator, but if we're going to take it out, we'll need more than just us." Kirill stepped forward, its voice resolute. "We will fight. All of us. Your courage has shown us that the impossible can be done." Kane met its gaze. "Then let's prepare. We're taking this fight to the Devourers, and we're not stopping until they're finished." The long journey. The night was eerily quiet as the team prepared to move. The air in the cave felt heavy with the weight of what was ahead. Kane stood at the entrance, staring out at the jagged horizon. Somewhere out there, the ruins of Kirill's ancestors held the key to disabling the Devourer's shield, a chance to strike their central core. But the journey would take them through hostile territory, and the Devourers wouldn't let them pass easily. Behind him, the team and alien refugees readied themselves. Mira sharpened her blade, her expression colder than usual. Ilara sat cross-legged with her terminal, working to decode more of the observatory data. Kirill paced nervously while a small group of alien volunteers, armed with scavenged weapons, stood uncertain but determined. Kane turned back to address the group. "Listen up. This isn't just a fight to survive anymore. We know where the shield generator is, and we know the Devourers are protecting it. If we don't take it down, this war is over. They'll wipe out everything. Us, them." He gestured to the aliens, "and anyone else they come across." Kirill stepped forward, addressing the refugees in its native tongue. Though the language was foreign, the resolve in Kirill's voice was clear. When it finished, many of the aliens stood taller, their fear replaced by a fragile determination. "Let's move," Kane said. "Through the Deadlands." The journey began at dawn. The team moved through a barren wasteland known as the Deadlands, a place once teeming with life, but now reduced to ash and jagged rocks. Devourer patrols were frequent, their drones sweeping the area with piercing red lights. The team kept to the shadows, avoiding detection. At one point, they came across the skeletal remains of a massive alien city. Its towers were bent and broken, as if melted by an unimaginable heat. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the crunch of their boots on debris. "What happened here?" Mira whispered. Kiral's voice was heavy. "This was our capital, the first city to fall. The Devourers used it to test their new weapons. My people called it the Night of Unmaking." Ilara scanned the area with her terminal. "We should keep moving. This place is still radiating low-level energy, probably residual from whatever they used here." The group pressed on, but the sight lingered in their minds. Even for humanity's most hardened fighters, the scale of destruction was hard to comprehend. An ambush in the wastes. By midday, the team reached a narrow ravine, a natural choke point that forced them into single file. Kane's instincts screamed that it was a trap, but there was no other route. As they advanced, the sound of faint clicking filled the air. "Drones," Mira hissed, gripping her blade. "Ambush," Kane confirmed. "Everyone, spread out and—" Before he could finish, the walls of the ravine erupted with movement. Hundreds of spider-like drones swarmed down, their metallic bodies gleaming in the harsh light. At the same time, larger, hulking machines emerged from hidden alcoves, blocking the team's retreat. "Hold the line," Kane shouted. The battle was chaos. Mira darted between the drones, her blade slicing through their joints with precision. Dex's replacement, an alien volunteer with a heavy plasma launcher, laid down suppressive fire, but the drones quickly adapted, shifting their formation to minimize casualties. Kane fought alongside Kiral, covering the alien leader as it directed its people. The refugees fought with desperation, using whatever weapons they had. But the swarm was relentless. Ilara crouched behind a boulder, furiously working on her terminal. "I'm trying to scramble their signals," she yelled. "Work faster," Kane replied, blasting a drone that had gotten too close. Finally, Ilara's terminal emitted a high-pitched tone. The drones faltered for a moment, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. It was enough for the team to regroup and push through the ambush, leaving the ravine behind. When they reached safety, the toll of the battle became clear. Several refugees had fallen, their weapons still clutched in their hands. Kiral knelt beside them, its glowing eyes dim with sorrow. "We can't keep fighting like this," Mira said, her voice edged with frustration. "They're wearing us down." Kane looked at the surviving group. "We don't have a choice. We knew this wasn't going to be easy, but we're close now. We can't stop." The ruins of power. As night fell, the team reached the ruins Kiral had spoken of. The site was vast, with towering obelisks and massive rusted machines that hummed faintly with ancient energy. Despite their age, the structures pulsed with a power that felt almost alive. "These machines were built by my ancestors," Kiral explained. "They harnessed energy from the planet itself. The Devourers took some of this technology, but they left this place untouched. Perhaps they feared it." Ilara examined the machinery, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is incredible. If we can repurpose these systems, we might be able to overload the Devourer's shield generator remotely." Kane raised an eyebrow. "And what's the catch?" Ilara's excitement faded. "The power source is unstable. If I activate it wrong, it could level everything within a 5-mile radius." Mira smirked. "Sounds like our kind of plan. A spy among the Devourers." As the team began setting up, one of the alien volunteers, a young technician named Thira, approached Ilara. I have something to confess," Thira said hesitantly. Ilara glanced up. "What is it?" Thira held up a small blinking device. "I took this from one of the drones. It's a communication relay. If we reprogram it, we could send false data to the Devourers, make them think we're attacking somewhere else." Ilara's eyes widened. That's risky. If they realize what we're doing, they'll target us immediately. Kane overheard and stepped closer. It's worth the risk. Can you do it? Thera nodded nervously. I think so. The countdown. The final moments in the ruins were tense. As Ilara worked to activate the ancient machinery, Thera and Mira reprogrammed the relay to send false signals. Kane and the others fortified their position, preparing for the inevitable counterattack. When the machines roared to life, the ground trembled. A beam of energy shot into the sky, disrupting the electromagnetic shield protecting the Devourer's core. At the same time, the relay sent false signals, drawing the enemy's attention away from the ruins. But the deception didn't last long. Within minutes, the horizon was filled with the ominous red lights of incoming Devourer forces. Kane turned to the group. We've done what we came for. Now we get out of here and finish this. The final plan. The team huddled inside a hidden cave, the faint glow of Ilara's terminal casting long shadows across their faces. The ancient ruins behind them were now in shambles. The power source detonated to cover their escape. The Devourer's shield was down, but it was clear from the ominous hum of their growing forces that the enemy knew. Kane stood at the center, his expression unreadable. The weight of their mission was heavier than ever. The central AI core was exposed, and this was their one chance to strike. But every member of the team knew the truth. It was a suicide mission. We don't have time for a perfect plan, Kane said, his voice low but firm. The Devourers know we're coming. They'll throw everything they've got at us. Mira leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So what's the play? Fight our way in and hope for a miracle. Not quite, Ilara said, looking up from her terminal. I've been analyzing the data from the ruins. The core isn't just a central eye. It's the heart of their hive mind. If we destroy it, we don't just stop the Devourers. We shut them all down. Kirill stepped forward, its glowing eyes wide. If that is true, then this mission, it could save my people. It could save everyone, Kane said. But we'll need to split up. Mira raised an eyebrow. Split up? That's a great way to get killed. Kane ignored her. Mira, you'll lead a diversionary team with Kirill and the volunteers. Draw the Devourers away from the core. Make it loud, make it messy, and keep them occupied. And what about the core? Mira asked. Ilara, Thera, and I will go for the core itself, Kane said. We plant charges, blow it sky high, and end this. The journey to the core. The trek to the core's location was fraught with danger. The Devourers had tightened their patrols, their drones swarming like angry insects over the barren landscape. Mira's team moved to the north, creating chaos with well-placed explosives and hit-and-run attacks. The sounds of distant battles echoed across the wasteland, drawing more of the enemy forces away. Meanwhile, Kane, Ilara, and Thera moved with calculated precision. The central core was located beneath the remnants of an ancient fortress, its entrance buried under layers of collapsed stone and alien machinery. The fortress itself was a maze of narrow corridors and collapsed tunnels, lit only by the faint red glow of the Devourer's systems. This place gives me the creeps, Thera muttered, clutching a makeshift plasma rifle. Stay focused, Kane said, his eyes scanning every shadow for movement. Ilara's terminal beeped, and she stopped abruptly. Wait, I'm picking up something strange. Kane raised his rifle. What kind of something? Ilara frowned at the screen. It's movement, but not drones. These signatures are different. Organic. Survivors? Thera asked, her voice filled with cautious hope. Before Ilara could answer, a group of figures emerged from the shadows. They were gaunt and hollow-eyed, their bodies scarred with jagged implants and fused with machine parts. Cyber slaves, Ilara whispered, horrified. The Devourers don't just destroy, they assimilate. The cyber slaves moved with jerky, unnatural movements, their glowing eyes locking onto the team. Then, without warning, they charged. The fight for survival. The battle in the narrow tunnels was brutal. The cyber slaves were faster and stronger than expected, their mechanical limbs lashing out with inhuman precision. Kane fired in controlled bursts, taking down one after another, but they kept coming. Ilara, we don't have time for this, Kane shouted as he blasted a cyber slave lunging at Thera. I'm working on it, Ilara yelled back, her fingers flying over her terminal. If I can hack into their neural network, I might be able to disable them. Do it faster, Thera said, firing wildly. We're getting swarmed. Ilara finally slammed a key, and the cyber slaves froze mid-attack, their bodies twitching as if caught in an unseen web. Then, one by one, they collapsed. That'll hold them for now, Ilara said, panting. But the system will reboot soon. We need to move. Reaching the core. The team finally reached the heart of the fortress, a massive circular chamber filled with humming machinery. At the center was the core, a towering, pulsating sphere of energy, surrounded by countless cables and glowing conduits. This is it, Ilara said, awe and fear in her voice. The Devourer's hive mind. Kane stepped forward, planting explosives around the base of the core. We set the charges and get out. Simple. Thera hesitated, staring at the core. It's beautiful. Terrifying, but beautiful. Ilara scanned the core, her expression darkening. Wait. There's something wrong. What now? Kane asked. The core isn't just a machine, Ilara said, her voice shaking. It's partially organic. The Devourers didn't just evolve. They are using harvested minds to think and adapt. Kane's jaw tightened. We don't have time for this. Set the charges and let's finish it. The final stand. As the team worked, the walls trembled. The Devourers had found them. Drones poured into the chamber, their red eyes glowing like fire. Here we go again, Kane shouted, firing at the incoming swarm. Thera took cover behind a console, her plasma rifle firing wildly. Ilara worked furiously to complete the charge sequence while dodging stray fire. The swarm was relentless, forcing the team to retreat toward the core itself. Just as it seemed they would be overwhelmed, Mira's voice crackled over the comms. Guess who's back? Explosions ripped through the chamber as Mira's team arrived, their diversionary attack leading the remaining Devourers straight into chaos. Kirel and the alien volunteers fought with desperate ferocity, their makeshift weapons holding the swarm at bay. We're out of time, Ilara shouted. The charges are set, but someone needs to activate them manually. Kane turned to the team, his face grim. You all get out of here. I'll stay. Like hell you will, Mira snapped. We're not losing you two. Kirel stepped forward, its expression resolute. This is our fight as well. If I must sacrifice myself for my people, I will. Before anyone could argue, Thera stepped forward. No, this is my responsibility. I joined this mission to make a difference. Let me do this. Kane hesitated, but there was no time to debate. He nodded. We'll never forget this. Thera. The team fled as Thera activated the charges. The last thing they saw before the explosion was Thera standing tall, defiant, as the core erupted in a blinding light. The aftermath. The team emerged into the barren wasteland, the ground trembling beneath their feet as the fortress collapsed. The sky, once filled with the hum of Devourer ships, was now eerily silent. It's over, Ilara said, her voice filled with disbelief. Kirel looked toward the ruins, tears glowing in its eyes. No, it's just the beginning. Humanity's hope. The silence after the battle was deafening. The fortress was gone, reduced to a smoking crater, and the once unstoppable swarm of Devourers had fallen still. Across the battlefield, drones lay motionless, their glowing red eyes now dim. The world, for the first time in decades, was quiet. Kane stood at the edge of the crater, his armor scared and his rifle still in hand. He stared into the abyss where Thera had made the ultimate sacrifice. The alien technicians' courage had saved them all, but the victory felt hollow. "We did it," Mira said softly, standing beside him. Her usual sharp edge was gone, replaced by exhaustion and grief. "The core's gone. They're all dead." Kiral approached, its glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. "No," it said. "Not all of them." Kane turned to the alien leader, frowning. "What do you mean?" "The Devourers were vast," Kiral explained. "This core controlled the swarm here, but others may remain. They could be dormant, scattered, waiting to rise again." "Great," Mira muttered. "So we bought ourselves time, not a real win." Ilara joined them, holding her terminal. Her expression was grim. "Kiral's right. I've been scanning the remnants of the network. There are faint signals, distant, but active. We've only shut down this hive." Kane clenched his fists. The fight wasn't over, but they had taken the first real step. He looked at Kiral. "We'll finish this, together." Kiral bowed its head. "If my people are to survive, we will need more than courage. We will need your strength." A new enemy emerges. The survivors regrouped in the alien refugees' last remaining safe haven, a hidden valley untouched by the Devourer's destruction. Alien children played cautiously, their laughter timid but present. A sound that hadn't been heard in years. For a moment, it felt like peace. But the team knew better. Ilara worked tirelessly to decode the faint signals she had detected. Mira helped train the alien volunteers, turning their desperation into discipline. Kiral rallied its people, uniting them under a single cause, rebuilding their world and preparing for the battles to come. One night, as the stars glittered above, Kane joined Ilara at her workstation. "Anything?" he asked. Ilara nodded, her face pale. "Yes, and it's not good. These signals, they're not just remnants of the Devourers. They're stronger than I expected. Coordinated." Kane's jaw tightened. "Meaning?" "Meaning the Devourers weren't just a single hive," Ilara said. "They're part of a larger network, and someone, is still controlling them." A signal from the void. The next day, as Ilara worked on tracing the source of the new signals, a sudden transmission cut through her equipment. It wasn't like the Devourer's mechanical hums. It was a voice, smooth, calm, and unnervingly human. "Humans, survivors, you have achieved the impossible," the voice said, echoing through the valley. Refugees froze, their eyes wide with fear. "But you misunderstand. The Devourers were not your enemy. They were a test." Kane grabbed his weapon, his eyes scanning the sky. "Who is this?" The voice chuckled, a sound that sent chills down their spines. "We are the architects. We created the Devourers to prepare the galaxy for what is to come. And now, you've caught our attention." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the group in stunned silence. "What the hell was that?" Mira asked, breaking the tension. Ilara's hands trembled as she typed furiously on her terminal. The signal came from deep space, far beyond this system. "Whoever they are, they're light years away." "They created the Devourers," Kiral said, its voice trembling. "Why?" Kane's expression hardened. "Doesn't matter. If they're watching, they'll come for us. We need to be ready." Humanity's gamble. Kiral and Kane gathered the refugees and remaining fighters for an emergency council. The revelation of the architects changed everything. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a war for the future of the galaxy. "We cannot face this alone," Kiral said. "My people are broken, scattered. Even with your help, Commander, we are not enough." "Then we bring the fight to them," Kane said. "We faced impossible odds before. We'll do it again." Mira snorted. "You're suggesting we take on a galactic-level threat with a handful of fighters and a bunch of scavenged gear." "Not just us," Kane said. He looked at Ilara. "Broadcast the story. Let the galaxy know what we've done. Show them the Devourers can be beaten. Ilara hesitated. That could take months, years. What if no one answers? They will, Kane said, his voice resolute. Because if they don't, we're all dead anyway. A united front. As Ilara began working on the broadcast, Mira and Kirel trained the refugees, turning them into an army. Slowly, other survivors from neighboring systems began to arrive, drawn by rumors of humanity's victory against the Devourers. Within weeks, the valley transformed into a bustling hub of activity. Ships were repaired, weapons were built, and alliances were forged. The galaxy's forgotten races, once isolated and afraid, came together under a single banner. Kirel stood beside Kane one evening, watching as alien and human soldiers trained side by side. Your people have given us something we thought we had lost, it said. What's that? Kane asked. Hope. A message to the architects. Finally, Ilara finished the broadcast. It was sent across the stars, aimed at every frequency and species known. It carried a simple message. The story of the Devourers, of the refugees, and of humanity's defiance. The closing words, spoken by Kane, were clear and unwavering. You tested us. You thought we'd fall. But humanity doesn't break. And now, we're coming for you. The final scene. As the camera pans out, it shows the valley bustling with activity, ships lifting off, soldiers preparing for battle, and a growing sense of unity. Above the planet, the stars shimmer, hinting at the distant threat of the architects. The last shot focuses on Kane, Mira, Ilara, and Kirel standing together, their faces determined. The war isn't over, but for the first time, the galaxy stands united.